Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Dear listener, good morning if you're listening to this live, or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in this world, listening to us on demand or listening to us now elsewhere in the world. Of course, we have listeners in more than 100 countries around the world. It's amazing. It's been 5 years. And, it just so happens that people love it. They feel nourished. They come back, and we're here. And we love it too. We love being with you. We love the opportunity of sharing with you the principles that really lead us into a better life. The world is changing. It is. I know there's still many injustices around the world, but little by little, day by day, each one of us will make a difference and is making a difference. We don't need to do 100 things. All we need to do is one. And this one begins at home. And in our home, the physical body. Today, we're dedicating the program to sex addiction in the light of Spiritism. What is it? We need to know more. Allan Kardec, in the Spirit's book, What a Book! It's the Constitution of the Soul. It tells us about the whole 9 yards of life. And it doesn't contradict any religious thought. On the contrary, it goes hand in hand and it expands. That's all it is. And there we're going to find special questions regarding exactly what we will talk about today. Do we, as immortal spirits, have sex? The answer is no. Actually, when we incarnate, we need the body of a woman and the body of a man. Why? What is that for? So we're going to discuss this and much more, and specifically talk about the force of creation, co-creation inside of us, and how we can manage it so we don't incur in addictions. And if we do, what do we do next? To discuss this with us, we have here our dear friend and also a scholar in Spiritism, Adriano Barbo Ferreira. Yes, Adriano Ferreira. He is from the Mount Vernon area in New York, in the state of New York. He founded with friends and leads the Spiritist Center, the Mount Vernon Spiritist Center. And whenever you are in the area, please stop by. Go to their website to get to know more information about the days of the meetings. And I can't forget to remind you, wherever you are in the United States, or if you're coming from abroad, this coming October, the Medical Spiritist Society of the United States and the international one are hosting their meeting at Georgetown University, and it's going to happen in the first weekend of October. Just go to the website sma-us.org to learn about the program and to learn about the registration as well. Okay, it's a fantastic work that you shouldn't miss either. If you by any chance is Portuguese and are listening to us and you'd like to stop by at the international meeting that we're having in Lisbon, Portugal this year, just go to 8cem.org to get to know about the International Spiritist meeting that is going to happen in Lisbon, Portugal this year. Okay? So we're going to kickstart the program with a beautiful message, optimism. by Joana de Angelis through Divaldo Franco in the book and CD, Living and Loving. And you can buy it at the Spiritist side of Baltimore's website, ssbaltimore.org. After this message, Adriano Ferreira and I are going to be talking about sex addiction in the Spiritist view and much more. If you want to contact us directly, 858-769-4705. It's a toll-free number here at Cardiac Radio, or you can also send us a message through the Blog Talk Radio chat room. We're here and many other friends. Also, you can go to our Facebook page and send us a message there as well, or to the email cardiacradio@gmail.com. We are going to listen to this beautiful message, Optimism, to set the tone of the program right after this.
Chapter 6. Keep your optimism.
The dispirited companion who walks by your side may be facing a crucial ordeal. That friend of yours who slipped into delinquency may have tried hard to avoid crime. The other one who succumbed to vice may have fought against it but was not strong enough. The co-worker who discontinued service might have tried to stay in his place but was unable to comply. The friend who suddenly became your enemy may not have been able to overcome his pernicious tendencies. People acting negatively need understanding rather than criticism. Some might have wished to act differently but could not help themselves. A few others may be secretly trying to fight their negative drives. Many may have already acted as anonymous heroes but are now in disgrace. All of them need a new opportunity to prove themselves, that they can change their behavior. They may never ask for help. Still, they should be given a new chance. Consider the positive side of people's actions and forget their weaknesses. Do not reject them. It is easy to fraternize with nice and diligent people always willing to cooperate and serve. It is agreeable to enjoy the company of worthy persons. But they also have problems of which you probably know nothing about. The earth is both a school and a hospital for unhealthy souls. Nobody living on earth now is an exception from this rule. It is useless to seek the company of angels, since they are not incarnate on earth now. All people on this planet bear the same characteristics as yourself. They suffer, have their own limitations, and they want to live in peace, and they dream with happiness. Try not to comment on the deficiency of others. If you cannot help them, keep silent and excuse them when they hurt you. Do not be disheartened by their behavior. If you know what you are looking for and are willing to serve, go on acting as you know best and be gentle to all who come your way. Do not harbor grief or disappointment within your heart. Be an optimist. Help those who have gone astray back to the right road. Abandoned and betrayed, Jesus was never disheartened. Never did he display resentment. He was the great winner of all the battles that life reserved for him.
What a message. What a message. And that's exactly the tone of our discussion here. We're going to talk about sex addiction. And there is a book that is yet to be translated. And soon, we hope this effort's going to come true. It's by the spirit mentor of Chico Xavier, Emmanuel, named Vida e Sexo, Life and Sex. And that's exactly the tone of his conversation in the book. He says, "Dear companions of the earth, before any complications and problems regarding sex, avoid censuring and condemning others. Every one of us, spirits who are perfecting themselves on the earth, are emerging from a multi-millennial past in which the dramas of the soul are filled with the shades of life. So in order for us to learn and keep this learning in our souls," so he says, If you see somebody who is falling in regards to sex, let us not forget to be quiet and wait. Dear listener, today we have a very important message, and we are here with our friend Adriano Ferreira from the Mount Vernon Spiritist Center. He has been reading and studying and lecturing on this book and other topics that are tangent to this very one, and he is here with us today. Thank you so much, my friend Adriano, for being with us at Kardec Radio again. How are you?
Hi, Vanessa and Kardec Radio listeners. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk today with you. I'm really great. This topic is so, in some way, avoided by so many of us to talk about it. Just want to emphasize that I'm not here to teach nobody about it, but instead share what Spiritist is teaching us throughout, our experience in Spiritism. And since it is a topic that every one of us in some way on earth I need to understand, in Spiritist, it's so broad in explaining, in helping us understand the sexual context of our life that is so, update for us to talk about it. I'm grateful to be here and share with you my experiences and what I'm learning in Spiritist.
Thank you so much. And Adriano, for those who are listening to us and would like to stop by at the Mount Vernon Center, the website is mvscenter.org. M as in Mount Vernon Center. mvscenter.org, Mount Vernon Spiritist Center in New York. And Adriano, when we talk about sex, it's people sometimes, often, majority of people on the earth have no sex education whatsoever. Parents are often embarrassed and don't know how to talk to their children about it. And due to that, everybody or majority of people learn about it elsewhere in ways that are not necessarily the healthiest ways. And nowadays, if we watch movies, etc., everything's so corrupted in a way, talking about the use of sex, that is very conflicting. And, in a book that you've been studying, and I know we talk so much about the workshops, and I remember many times you mentioned about how much you've studied this book, Vida e Sexo, Life and Sex by Emmanuel, and this book has fantastic chapters, including one, and I'm going to quote quickly here. Though it's not in English yet, I'm going to do a free translation here. There is one in which he defines us, the millennial spirits, having what he calls an erotic charge or an erotic load. And he says, the sexual instinct expressed with incessant love is born in the deepest recesses of life, guiding us in the process of evolution. Each creature brings this load with themselves, the sexual instinct. And he says later on something that is quite fantastic. He says to us that each one of us has this erotic load that we shall learn how to manage. He says we need to learn how to manage these impulses, and he finalizes this chapter by saying each man and each woman that has not yet sublimated their creative forces in the body or in the soul has more or less percentage of sexual anxieties that need to be worked upon. So this is one of the ways in which Spiritism sees our creative force. André Luiz in other books talk about this sexual instinct as the creative force inside of us. What would you like to tell the listener more about the importance of this sexual instinct and the sexual force inside of us, Adriano?
That's interesting how Emmanuel explains to us and how Spiritist brings to us. If we go out of the Spiritist, it's really hard for society in elsewhere to really understand what we understand in Spiritist, because we don't find as much as we find in Spiritist explanations about this force. It's so much broader of any other literature concerning this topic that when we compare what we have in Spiritist and we have out of Spiritist, it's a huge difference. So in that way, when we get into Spiritist to study ourselves, to study this topic, it's much easier in some way to understand it and really educate this force in which Emmanuel is talking about. Mm-hmm. If we, for example, read the book Evolution in 2 Words by Dr. André Luiz, in this book, he's going to explain the whole process of our evolution in all of our realms. And the sex is one of the parts in which he's going to explain in this book, Evolution in 2 Words. Mm-hmm. And André Luiz puts to us in so broad view that for a beginner, for a starter, when he reads something like André Luiz writes in this book, he kind of gets surprised. Oh my God, it is, he puts, for example, that this force, which is sex, manifests in every realm of life, not only on Earth, in the whole universe. He's going to explain somewhere in the book that, the force in which the planets attract to each other, in which the atoms maintain attracted to each other, and so forth, is the same force, the same energy that we use as a sexual relationship in our daily life. So in that concept, it's so broader, it's so vast that, it in a way gives us inspiration, stimulation to really take this, good force that we have and educate it and channel it to really, which is the meaning for sex, the creative force that we have. So it is there that we start our education for the sex, because that's the base for channeling this force. As any other force that we have in our spirit, it's based, the best way is the education as early as possible, and it starts, of course, in childhood. As myself, I've gone through a very precarious sexual education in my life, and I see around me as well. And today, as adults, as I see around me, as we see in society, its consequences are, very harmful for people. They carry of psychological conflicts, dramas that they've gone through because they had not the sexual education in childhood.
Exactly. You said it all. And Adriano, when we talk about the use of sex, people think, there are only 2 ways. Either, let it freely, like permissiveness, or repression. And we're learning with Spiritism that as everything else in nature, we need to learn how to manage it. And management of the sexual instinct is about something that goes beyond just reasoning. It's an emotional training too. In a chapter in the book we just talked about, Life and Sex by the Spirit Emmanuel, there is a chapter 25 named Sex and Religion. It's so interesting because some people, I remember a therapist telling me, like, Vanessa, I often see people who are so religious and they go through their repression, and one day they are, the vessel of greatest scandals because they didn't learn how to manage their sexual force. And I said, it's so true. And Emmanuel, in this chapter, he begins with a question. He asks, just because somebody has a commitment of a religious nature, are they going to be exempt of their impulses and sexual impulses? And the answer, he says, is obviously the logics reply saying that the spirit follows the sequence of nature. Each creature embraces the load of this nature as they are inside of themselves. So it's very interesting. It's quite difficult to translate like off the bat here, but it's very interesting. He says nobody sculpts oneself overnight. So he's saying we need time. We need to gradually work with our instinct. And he clarifies, we understand that the laws of the universe do not destroy the instinct, but transform it in reason, and throughout the passages of years or of time, through the mechanisms of sublimation, it's going to change those impulses. And the question here, Adriano, is for those who are listening to us, what does sublimation mean? What is it? Because many people think sublimation is just repression. And Chico Xavier, we know he went through his own experience as well regarding that, though he had this deep religious commitment and he learned how to sublimate it. Would you like to share this clarification regarding the sublimation, Chico Xavier, as an example to all those who are listening to us, please, Adriano?
Yes, of course. That's here again. It's the point that we were talking before. Is education. It's not about repression or let it go free with no direction at all. It's about using this force in a proper way. It could be as a normal sexual relationship, or as many other people does, using the same force for other creative programs. As Chico, the person we're talking, he have used the same very force of sexual force by his noble projects on Earth, as many others have done throughout history. It's the same force, but used it in a different way. But that, it starts with the education, because since the childhood, there's two ways that is the most common use. One, press it, that is dirty to use it unless this or that way, in a very disturbing way for the child, and he or she grows up afraid of this force that which in some way is pulsing inside him or her, causing later on in life, in certain point that the person represses so much that he can't bear it. He or she doesn't learn how to channel this force throughout the life. Or the other way, which is let it go free, that it's, we should use it as most as we can, leaving later on in life as we understand that the addiction. Especially, for men, it's, for the teenagers, I can tell a little bit of what I've gone through. When I reached my teenage time, which is 14, 15, 16, I used to work with adults, and their vision and their proposal to me is that to bring me over to a prostitution place in which I could initiate my, sexual life in that place. That was something very important for them, which is, as we understand, it's not appropriate for a teenager, especially to go to such a places and start there. But for their vision, there was something important for a teenager to start their sexual life that will bring, experience and so forth. It was really hard for me because I had no idea, what we have in Spiritist and so forth. And then if I denied in one side, I'll be, labeled, I was not a man. If I accepted the invitation, then I'll be in trouble as well because that proposal really doesn't match with my psychic, drive that I wanted to use. So that way it required from me throughout many, many years negotiation, doing some excuses here and there to not to go to certain places. But I have seen, throughout my life, many and countless friends that goes since, teen time, 14, 13, 15, going to those places in which they initiate their sexual life. When they grow up, that's so common for them to use this sexual force in whatever direction they find someone, be either man or woman. I still work with friends that they question you all the time. I mean, did you have sex yesterday? To whom? Because for them, sex is about, corporeal relationship. And for us in Spiritism, is different. And then when I tell them, yes, I had sex yesterday, I say, but you don't have a girlfriend. You don't have, I tell you, no, I don't need a person to make sex because I'm using it to read my books and use my creative and do my projects in life. It's the same force that you used yesterday with your girlfriend. So in that way, I'm in some way sublimating my force in this direction, or either other direction, which is having a committed relationship with someone if I have a person, and then use it as responsible as possible. Because Emmanuel is explaining to us in the same book that every relationship that we have, sexual relationship that we have with someone, is a responsibility taken in that same action. But it's not, well intended, and with a commitment in vision. It's just for the matter of having sex, and then there is a negative commitment that I do with this certain person. That's why we have to watch out a lot, because people may think, okay, I mean, I got to know this girl, I got to know this man, and then we're just going to try out if it's okay, and then we go together. And they stay for a couple of months, for a couple of days, and then they go to the next one. And then there is a mark between them, a negative one, in which later on in life, or in this next reincarnation, they have to redo or repair these emotional contact in which they get in the relationship. So in that way, sublimation, as we go on now on Earth, is about using this sexual force in a very responsible as most as we can, no matter if we have a partner or not. Is using this force. For example, a person which doesn't have a partner, but are using this force, the sexual force, for a negative way, destructive way, is not sublimating the same force, because this force is using to destroy, using the creativity of this power for making negative situations on Earth. They are really contaminating and harming this force in which every one of us care. And contrary, by using this creativity in noble projects, is sublimating as well, according to Spiritism.
Exactly. So, dear listener, we're going to give a very short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about practical ways in which we can work it out, like manage our sexual instinct, okay? It's about sexual education. It's about learning that there is some form of awareness that goes first, and then how we can reach out to children and teens regarding their preparation in their own sexual life. And then later, we're going to deepen regarding sexual addiction. Why does this happen? Where does it come from? There's always a root cause for everything. Adriana is talking about consequences. We'll also clarify more about consequences, talking about the two worlds, the material, spiritual, and to keep ourselves in this beautiful optimism, because we always progress. Let us listen to this beautiful message, Omnipotent Love, which is in the CD Enlightening Messages or the book Enlightening Messages. Go to the website of the ssbaltimore.org to get to know more about how to buy it and acquire your own copy.
Omnipotent Love. At the distressful time of crisis in which circumstances took your soul into trial, many believed that you would no longer rise. However, when shadows thickened around you, you found the blinding light, which impelled you toward the path of hope bathed in sunlight. In the cell of disease, many admitted that nothing was left for you but to accept the scythe of death. However, at the extreme moments, intangible hands caressed the exhausted body, renewing its warmth, so that you would not leave incomplete the service that marks your presence on earth. In the midst of temptation, many agreed that decadence was all that was left for you. However, at the edge of the muddy cliff where you were, an invisible arm manifested itself, deterring you. In the valley in which you threw yourself without thinking, many despised you for good. Nevertheless, at the threshold of madness, you received inner support that guarded your heart, reconstructing your life. In the hut of loneliness, in which the most cherished relatives relegated you, many believed you to be forlorn. But at the end of your weeping, which appeared to be endless for you, you experienced an unexplainable uplift that encouraged you to seek new bonds which honored you. While in the midst of turmoil that envelops you during the day, think about God, the omnipotent love, which does not forsake us. No matter how great the affliction, He will bring a balm that consoles. No matter how obscure the problem, He will give a fair and correct solution. Even so, do not hasten in personifying or defining Him. The Word of Christ is enough for us. He who revealed God is our Father. Above all, do not bother if someone denies God's existence, even if their words shine in the world, because you will find God within your heart in moments of pain. It is natural that it be like that. It is when the night comes that the eyes of humanity can devise the splendor of the stars.
We love these messages, how beautiful they are, and they are so truthful, so inspirational. Did you know, dear listener, that the most recent research in science shows to us that when you read, the more you read, I just read it like 2 days ago, when you read books, you are at least 30% less likely to die before others who don't read. Can you believe it? It reduces mortality. So now I understand more and more why the Spirit Emmanuel psychographed many books through Chico and actually suggested and recommended that Chico trimmed his mediumship, the healing mediumship, into psychographing books, more than 460 books total, through many different spirits, because of several reasons. It's about the healing of the soul, which is the most important part. And also, it's about the healing that gives us better quality of life. And incarnation is so precious. We shall stay here more and more to cherish this incarnation. Some people tell me, oh, I don't want to go past 60 or 70. And the other day I heard Divaldo Franco, who is almost 90, and he said, somebody, an interview in Brazil was asking him, so I look at you, you could live like 120 years. I said, that's what I want. That's what I want. Is he crazy when he says that? No, he's smart because he knows how precious one incarnation is. You don't want to simply get done and say, okay, I'll do everything else in my next incarnation. My friends, how long does it take for each one of us to be fully aware about what we're doing here? Maybe 50 years, sincerely. And then in 20 more years, you think you're done? No. Wow. We should really cherish this life the best we can. And reading books is one way we can really expand awareness. We're here with Adriano Ferreira, the president and founder of the Mount Vernon Spiritist Center, an adorable group, wonderful friends there who are doing their best to provide spirituality to their community. Go to the website, mvscenter.org. And today we're talking about sexual addiction in the Spiritist view. And we talked about several things. Now, before we deepen into the topic of sexual addiction, we want to talk about sexual education. So, Adriano, when thinking about how to manage it, we first begin with awareness. And one of the things that experts in the field have been saying is about exercises in which children, teenagers, and adults can do regarding body awareness. It's beyond just the sexual instinct. It's about I, as a spirit, understand that this body is here. Many people live with their bodies, forgetting that they are not the bodies are not them, are theirs temporarily, but not them. So the experts say we need to learn about body awareness. And it reminds me, Adriano, of the passage that I've heard from Divaldo Franco when he came to the 10th anniversary of the Spiritist out of Baltimore in 2008. And in a meeting with Godinho, the current president of the Spiritist, the Brazilian Spiritist Federation, he was telling us about Chico Xavier's body awareness and how through it he was advised by Emmanuel to work his sexual force. So by talking to the cells of the physical body, my friends who are listening to us, on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being very poor and 10 being excellent, how are you doing regarding your body awareness? How aware are you that your body is hungry, not exactly you, but the body, or tired, or in need of exercise, or in need of water, or in need of anything else, including this sexual instinct? What do you do? How do you manage your physical body? How do you deal with your body awareness? What would you like to share with the listener, Adriano, regarding tools on how we can achieve better levels of body awareness to learn how to manage our sexual instinct?
Well, I think the Spiritist Center is for the Spiritist Center who works with kids, and as well as adults, of course, is teaching that in which Spiritism brings us the idea that our body is this temple in which God has given us so we can use it as a tool for our progress. That whatever kind of abuse we have on it, it's going to bring a negative one for us. So the kids, the teenagers that come to a Spiritist Center, usually in our home, for example, in our Spiritist Center, we have classes in which shows them, brings them these education regarding their body, showing them that God has given them this body that doesn't belong really to them, because that that body was taken from the universal matter. That we didn't create our body. God has given us, and it was a process in which He has created for us to use it for our benefit. So in that way, since childhood, since teenage times, we start venerating our body as very, very important to us. So in that way, since childhood, they are getting aware of the fact that their body is really important for them, in which is the spirit that takes care of the body itself. They are not the body, as you were talking before, but they are using the body. So in that way, when they are growing up, little by little, that becomes automatic for them to take care of their body, and whatever the instincts, like the sexual force, comes out in more, stronger. They remember all the teachings and class that they had throughout their lifetime. So the Spiritist Center with the classes are teaching the children. And for the adults as well. The adults is kind of more difficult, because even though they study the books, for many now are coming to the Spiritist Center already with so many prejudices from their, for their childhood, for their adolescence, and even for adult time. So they already have a toll, a negative one in their lifetime. And to start now, an education process, regeneration process for many is very difficult and sometimes very painful, because their energy is already biased in many ways, requiring from them a much more work, attention, therapeutic processes, that they reach a more well-being state of mind and bodily. I know many people with a very deep conflicts in their area, because that is starting in childhood. And now it's kind of much more difficult to correct the situation, because now they feel, oh my God, what I have done. Because before it was normal, was okay, but now they see, wow, that was not what I thought. And now they are getting contact more and more with that same energy, and they don't know how to do with that, how to use them. And then comes the Spiritist Center with all, the classes and programs that we offer to help them. That's what we do.
Exactly. And if you're asking us about other tips, it's about body awareness. So breathing is a good way to begin to realize that you're not the physical body, but you're connected to it. Breathing, then observing the physical body and the cells. And, observation is a good way of connecting to anything. Look objectively. Observe. Look at your hand. Some people are afraid of looking at their body. Glances like, oh, okay, I'm done. No. In the morning, there are people who tell me, I don't even look at the mirror because I don't want to be upset. But it's not about finding beautiful or not, just saying, oh, blessed body, blessed. We need to teach our children not to be prejudiced by not making comments about people's body shapes, etc., by self-acceptance. And also another exercise that is very important for those who are asking us is about how to, let's say, domesticate our sensuality. Because I remember when I used to live in Brazil, we culturally have, ways of dressing up, etc., but people are not aware. And then I came to the United States and I started realizing, whoa, that's different. At first, it's strange, but then you say, let's think about it. It makes sense. Why you're going to be showing off your body parts? And this is not about being Puritan or a fundamentalist. It's just about respecting your body. Let's respect our body. And, like observing the body parts and protecting, keeping them from the hunger of others. And I say this because André Luiz, in his book Missionaries of the Light, in his book In the Realm of Mediumship, he talks about flirtation. A man who goes there and he, flirts with two women who pass by in the streets of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. At a time in which I tell you people were not as undressed as they are nowadays. So you figure nowadays it's going to be much worse. But he flirts with them without, he thinks, much consequence. But then André Luiz shows to us the consequences. As Adriana is saying, it's action and reaction. There is a consequence. Just the exchange, the energy of flirtation tells us that we need to be very careful, because when this man is sleeping, those two women come and approach him. It's as if he is engaged in a web of sexual exchange. In the Gospel According to Spiritism by Kardec, there is a chapter talking about how we can cheat in our thoughts. And this is not a Puritan way of seeing it. Actually, it's teaching us the core of our sexual education. It begins with body awareness. It begins with our thoughts. Then we can manifest in our actions. And to wrap up this part before we go deeper into sexual addiction, in chapter 22, named Cheating and Prostitution, in this book, Life and Sex by the Spirit Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, he says very clearly that regarding imperfections, desertions, weaknesses, and crimes in the world, the affective problems of humanity have been, he says, there's no single person on the earth who hasn't incurred in what he calls, quote unquote, mistakes of love. So maybe in this life, I have not done anything, but in previous lives, who knows? So that's why we shall not cast the first stone. And I know people who undergo cheating and who go through prostitution. But if you understand deep inside, we'll get to know more about the pathology of, okay? He says, as we're marching, Adriano, towards understanding sexual addiction, Emmanuel classifies cheating as something that in the future in humanity is going to be considered a pathology of the soul. How about that, Adriano?
Yes, it is a pathology of the soul. I think even as we're going to go for the addiction, for the person addicted to it, even though the person really loves their partners, in some way they can't hold on to them only. They cheat. I got to know many. They had kids. They have a beautiful woman or man. But even though they couldn't resist by cheating, and as you were talking before, the excessive exposure of the bodies throughout the streets is really some way of stimulating this kind of cheating. As we, for example, walk in the streets of New York in the summertime, for men, I mean, sometimes it's even embarrassed of us in some way, because some women, some women, they are in some way with so few clothes on their bodies. Sometimes I am in the subway, which is so hot in there, you know. Some women just, they come and they sit there I mean, I just got away because it's so embarrassing. I don't want to embarrass them because, it's clearly most of their bodies are showing up. I was, the last time that we were going to Virginia, I got a bus, and there were a woman sitting in one of the seats there, and she had a very short dress, and I saw a man sitting next to her, but she was clearly so short, her dress, and showing that man feel embarrassed, and I saw a few minutes away that man changed the seat, and nobody could, she gone all the trip by herself, and I saw that she saw some way that people were, no way noticing that she covered up in some way herself. So in that way, this excessive exposure of our bodies is triggering a lot of our instincts, which could be managed in some way much better if we had it not too much of exposure in it, which excites a lot our instincts.
Exactly. It's very interesting that here, the Spiritist out of Virginia, as you know, we have a dress code and at the center. But the reason why we explain it is because, it affects, as you're saying, the energy exchange. People are there and you're disturbing others and you may not know it. As I said, like when I used to live in Brazil, I was quite young and you're not aware because culturally people don't tell you. And it's like they don't give you sexual education. It's just like either repression or permissiveness. And some parents are so paradoxical because they're like, whoa, that's such a beautiful dress. But if somebody in your family uses it, then it's wrong. So it's like two different measures for the same thing. So we want to be coherent here. And as you're saying, it's about education since early life. So teaching our children from an early stage, like saying, love your body, respect your body, and don't let people use or abuse it. And treat it very kindly. If we teach each child how to proceed in this way, simple and very straightforward, sooner or later, we're going to disappear with the problems we have of the nature. And, Adriana, for those who are listening to us, there is somebody here. I'm not going to mention the name because they asked to be anonymous, but they're just asking about the causes of such addictions. We could tell that reincarnation is one of them, as Emmanuel says in this very book. It's about old habits from previous lives that we still need to tame. It reminds me of the book 2,000 Years Ago and the spirit Aurelia, and how in previous lives she was so permissive and promiscuous, and how that other life really ended up in a very tragic way because she kept on going on. But we also have spirit influences that can also reinforce sexual addictions. Would you like to explain better these points to the listener, please, Adriano?
Well, as we were talking throughout the conversation, and as we read in the books, we are spirits, very old spirits, even though we are new bodies. But the sexual force, the sexual instinct is in the spirit. Since our beginning, even millions of years back now. So it's the repetition throughout many and many reincarnations in some direction, and that is now causing us somewhat difficult to use it more or have a control on them. Because if we now this lifetime is facing a lot of challenges to really channel it in a good way, educate it. Imagine a 5, 3, 4, 6 reincarnation before, 1,000 years, 15,000 years back now. It was much worse because we were closer to our primitive states in evolution. We have to take the idea that we are evolving throughout time. And So all these forces, instincts were used and abused throughout time. It's the repetition of the abusive of this force that is causing now the drive for addiction. And since this force is so hard and the education doesn't help much, and then it's much easier to get into addiction. If we had abuse from this force in other reincarnation times, but we are born in a family in which brings a very deep educational process for our sexual force, we're going to see that even though we have difficulty from our previous lifetime, it will be much easier for the spirit to drive it in a more healthy way. But if we, as we do usually bring from many other lifetimes, this sexual use in a harmful way, and then we just born in a normal family, which stimulates even more this, and then it will be much more difficult for us to use. But there's no, I think, it will brings from other reincarnation. We just can't born and get addicted in this lifetime because we are, very old spirits. If we bring from many other lifetimes equilibrium, if we had used it in a proper way and had no conflicts on this area, of course, we're going to be born and had no problem on using it as we see around ourselves as much as we can observe. So it's clear that we bring it from one of past lifetimes, and of course, whatever kind of life we are having, that will trigger it more or less. Then that comes up our decision now, which is some way difficult because we see media, in TVs, in news, everywhere. The exposure, they are, some way, giving a value on the exposure of the body, which is we see people, most people that has fame on TV, they have beautiful bodies.
And it seems
much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
But it's interesting, Adriano, because somebody, so many questions are anonymous through email today, and I understand people don't want to share their names, which is okay, but somebody's asking us, as we're talking about sexual addiction, about pornography, and especially because nowadays we have internet, many people who are using internet to watch people, pornography, etc. So Spiritism clearly says everything we do in life, we are accompanied by other minds, other spirits. And whatever you do, if you want to know the quality of spirits that are next to you, just think, what kind of spirit's going to be with me doing what I'm doing? And don't think there are no consequences, because whatever we engage mentally, we're opening the doors to other minds who are going to be connected with us. And it's like opening the doors of your home to a criminal and saying, okay, you can stay here for a minute. Meanwhile, you go do something else. You come back like, are you still here? He said, yes, I want to stay here now. Oh, no, you can't. And it's going to be very complicated. That's how it goes regarding pornography. You're not going to be alone. And then you're going to say, I'm not going to do it any longer. And the spirits come to you and say, I want to do it again. Can you go back? And then you're going to be conflicted, and it's going to be like an enhancement of these old conditionings that will characterize what we call the pathology of the soul, diseases of the soul, which will manifest as prostitution, as those who engage into pornography, not only the making of it, but also the use of it, and etc. So we really need to avoid incurring mentally in those thoughts. But if you are already there in these pathologies, ask for help. Psychotherapy, spiritual treatments in Spiritist centers. You need help both with physicians, psychotherapists, and spiritual help in Spiritist centers, okay? You do not get rid of an addiction just like that by yourself. It's very rare, if ever. We always need help. So being humble and accepting that we need help is the first way to get out of addictions. That's for the people who are asking us. If you are engaged, remember, forgive yourself, but give yourself an opportunity. And there are many therapists who are prepared to help you at that end, and Spiritist centers that can also assist you and your spirit company regarding the recovery process as well. Adriano, as we are wrapping up the program today, unfortunately, please give us a final wrap-up for the listener who is today with us.
Well, yes, just a little bit of more regarding the spiritual influences. We read in this and in Valerie's books that one of the books in particular, they are the spirits. They are trying to help incarnate person, which is going through a difficult time in relation to his sexual force. And then the Valerie describes to us how the spirit is attached to his sexual organs on the body, is stimulating him more and more to look for sexual experiences. Even though he's trying now to get out the addiction, there is this connection with the spirit that they know exactly in the perispirit, our chakras, the root chakra especially, they attach to that chakra and stimulate it, and then the person itself feel a drive to look for sex. So in that way, we see how deep these spirits are sometimes connected to us. And then that way, as you said, that comes after treatment in spiritual and from the practice will help the person, will help us to detach from these entities. The prayer, the meditation is a way of disconnecting for these extra forces that are stimulating us to trigger this will to look for it. And then, will help a lot because, there's an extra force that we're going to get rid of it, and then we will be in some way lighter for us. And then, of course, here, since this topic is so vast, the time goes so fast, we don't have time to comment a lot about it. But I remember Chico Xavier. I was reading, and unfortunately it's not yet translated to English, but there's this book as well by Divaldo Frank, Sex and Conscience. It's a 600-page book in which Divaldo shares a lot of his experiences on this regard. He describes a lot of, cases, a variety of cases, which illustrates a lot this issue of sexuality. I learned a lot from this book. But there's one case in which he was facing a very difficult time as well when he started his missionary work in Brazil when he was very young, which is the force were much greater. And he looked for Chico Xavier to get some of his advice. And Chico told him what he had heard from Emmanuel, which to talk about the cells. But he told him a metaphor about it. I'm going to summarize it very quickly because our time, I think, it doesn't offer a full extent of the metaphor. But he told Chico that Emmanuel told him one way to cope with that energy that, it's in some way as well is in our body. He tells him that imagine, this metaphor. There is a king. There was a king, certain time there was a king that he had an army and his kingdom to take care. But he was suffering a lot of invasion, and he had to prepare his army to defend his country, his kingdom. And what happened is he had a certain amount of resources, foods, to keep his army strong in case of the invasion comes in. What happened is by giving the food for the army, he was keeping out the people out of food as well. And this situation got longer and longer, and then the population itself got unsatisfied with him. And then one day they got caused a revolt in the population. Why you give them so much food for the army, and then we are starving and so forth? So one day they got all together in his palace to find a solution or whatever, or kill him or do something. And then all this population comes in a square in front of his palace. And then he came up very humbly and started talking to the population that way. Okay, my people, I understand you have to see that I'm fragile, that I as well, my kingdom counts on you, on all of you. But imagine if I let all my resources, all the resources of this kingdom goes for every one of you. And then tomorrow, our enemies around our kingdom invade us. That is, happening all the time. We're going to be destroyed, and neither you or me or the arm will be strong enough to defend our country, our kingdom. But I tell you, if you want to help me. I need your help. Let us work together. I won't give up my resources, the food that I have in storage, all for you. But what you should do as well is work hard to get help. Help me produce food and so forth. So in that way, I being helped by you and I helping you as well. And then we stay strong. And then, Emmanuel, just to summarize it, that this is more broader than this, but to summarize here as the metaphor goes, is that, to Chico, imagine that your cells is your servant. You're the kingdom. They want food. They want food. They need that food. But if you liberate for them all the food, and then you get weak, and then the enemy comes and invades you. So you got to talk to your cells. Oh, my dear cells, you're my servant. You work for me in my kingdom. But I see I'm fragile too. I need your help. Let us work together and get power. I can't give you what you want. I can't give you what you want now. But as well, we can work together to help you. In that way, your cells, little by little, will understand your message, and they will start obeying you and working as well to produce, here in the sexual force, the energies, the equilibrated energy, the balanced energies that the king needs to manage the kingdom, because we have a kingdom in our hands, which is our body, that we have to take care of it. But if we let all the servants have what kind of food they want, and then we're going to run out of it. I don't know if it was, just a way to summarize what it could be used when it comes out of this force so strong in us.
Beautiful. Thank you, Adriano, so much for your time and for sharing these messages that are so uplifting and important. And to those who are listening to us, we wrap up the program here by reminding ourselves of Emmanuel's words. Emmanuel was the mentor of Chico Xavier, and he kindly shared with us at the end of the very book we mentioned throughout this program, Vida e Sexo, Life and Sex. He says, bless and love always. Before any and all this harmony of the affective world, no matter what it is, focus your thought and put yourselves in the shoes of those who are being accused. And before censuring them, listen to your own conscience and follow through the unforgettable advice by Jesus. Love one another as I have loved you. Because he says to us that we're all integral parts of one big family. So, dear listener, to all those who are experiencing issues regarding their sexual instinct, who are we to judge? We're just here to help one another, and when you succeed, all of us are succeeding. So we care for one another and for each other. That's why we dedicated the program today to this very essential and important topic. If you still have any question and we have not addressed those questions you have sent to us by email or by the Facebook message, you can always write to us post the show. If you're listening to this on demand, we're also open to listen from you. By the way, we love every single message you send to us. Keep sending it. And please remember, we are here to nourish your soul. We're sharing what nourishes us. And we wrap up now with a message, with a prayer, actually. With a prayer we always do as a way to help all of us get into this mutual help. Dear Mother, Father God, the blessings of yours are immense. Thank you for your loving kindness and for always showing us a new way of co-creating with you. Would like to dedicate this prayer to all those brothers and sisters in humanity, incarnated or discarnated, who are in need of help regarding the use of their sexual forces. May they find courage inside of them and a helping hand to lead them into a balanced and harmonious life. We also would like to ask for your blessings as we learn how to work with this beautiful temple of the body that you've given us in this life. Bless also our dear friend Adriano, who spent his time with us sharing these teachings that are so illuminating. May everyone who is listening to this program feel your loving embrace and how much you love us unconditionally, and so be it. Dear listener, next week we're going to dedicate the program to a beautiful topic. As we're talking about creative forces, we're also going to talk about how we say yes to life, how we do work towards this campaign of saving lives, expanding regarding suicide awareness. We're going to dedicate the program because there is a campaign that is going by the International Spiritist Council, Yes to Life. They have a Facebook page on it, and Marina Stigo is coordinating it, and we're going to dedicate the program to it. We're going to be open to hearing from everyone who needs a conversation, a helping hand, to lean on our shoulders regarding their issues so they can stay here strong, helping one another. For now, we wish you lots of blessings, and thanks everybody for listening to Kardec Radio. Stay tuned because there is more new programs every single day of this week.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.